Our friends at the David Pakman Show did a segment recently covering a troubling issue regarding privacy. Let's watch.
We've talked to you in the past about Stingray police surveillance. This is a class of surveillance device known as a cell site simulator, and it pretends to be a cell phone tower in order to extract metadata and location information, and in some cases, even the content of phones that are connected to it. There are 2,000 cases that could be overturned as the first motion for a retrial has been filed accusing the state attorney's office and the police of deliberate and willful misrepresentation of this technology used as Stingray. Now, when I say the state's attorney's office in 2,000 cases, I'm not talking about nationally, Lewis. I'm talking about within the Baltimore Police Department alone. We're looking at 2,000 cases that could be overturned because of misuse of this secret surveillance method.
Even after all of this, even if every single case here is overturned, thrown out, or whatever, I guarantee you police departments are still going to try to find ways, legal loopholes, to be using equipment like this because it just makes their job so much easier.
And the problem is abuse of authority. That's always been the problem, and that's why we have a system set up in the first place. That's why we have a process set up in the first place. The whole idea of checks and balance, the whole idea of getting a warrant is so that you don't have law enforcement and you don't have politicians and you don't have people in power basically looking at whoever they want and trying to get dirt or information on whoever they want for whatever bad motivations they may have. I mean, it might be something in their private life. It might be somebody that they disagree with politically who might threaten their power. And the list goes on of all the different conceivable problems. I mean, one of the biggest problems and one of the biggest things we were afraid of was once the NSA starts taking everybody's information and everybody's metadata, they say they're only going to use it for terrorism, but are they really only going to use it for terrorism? And the reality is, as we learned probably a little over a year ago now, they took that information and they started giving it to the DEA. So the NSA would take your metadata, take your information, give it to the DEA, and the DEA would then use that information to crack down on drug crimes. This is the slippery slope that we said was going to happen. This is mission creep, essentially, on the part of the NSA and on the part of the surveillance network and the government. They always start with something that nobody can disagree with in principle. Hey, we're just going after terrorists. Are you for terrorists? Don't tell me you're for terrorists. Are you for terrorists? We're just going to go after terrorists, so hey, let us, try to track just the people who we're supposed to track. But right away, we should have nipped it in the bud, because the system we had set up before, it's not like they couldn't try to track terrorists. Of course they could. They just had to do it by getting a warrant. They just had to do it by going through the proper steps in the system. And now, any checks and balances we have, like, for example, the FISA court, which signs off on a lot of this stuff, it's just a fucking rubber stamp, man. They don't actually, we read the numbers one time before on air. It's, well over 95% or something of all the claims. The FISA court's like, yeah, you could look into that, man, no problem. And the laundry list of the abuses of the NSA goes on and on. I mean, they look at their love interests. People at the NSA, it was so common they had a name for it. Love Int. It was short for Love Intelligence, where they would look at their ex-boyfriends, ex-girlfriends, they would go through everything, and they were abusing their power in the exact way that civil libertarians said from day one that they would do it. And now they're pointing out, the ship sailed. The ship has sailed. We're at a place where different police departments are using fake cell phone towers to get your information. Then they use that information to prosecute you. And David Pakman goes on to explain that they had to sign non-disclosure agreements, these police departments. And what that means is when a defense attorney pushes them and says, where did you get that information from? They would have to drop the case before they would be able to admit, I got this from, illegal spying that shouldn't have been happening, which is unconstitutional. So it's like there's illegal actions happening within illegal actions. They get away with whatever the fuck they can try to get away with here. So they take your information, illegally, unconstitutionally. They prosecute you, and if you don't have a good defense attorney, they could put you in jail based on information they should have never had in the first place because they didn't go through the proper channels to get that information, and they violated the process. No, this is unacceptable, man. I mean, the Founding Fathers would be rolling over in their graves hearing about this. You have a protection from unreasonable search and seizure, and it's been interpreted by the Supreme Court. You have a right to privacy. So the idea that there's a fucking fake cell phone tower that listens to all your conversations, and if you're engaged in anything that's bad or wrong, that, you know, eventually you'll get arrested and you'll get in trouble, that is lunacy. That's not the country we're supposed to live in. That much more resembles a tyranny than a democracy.